Welcome to ASHB's quarterly Smart Home Council webinar meeting. My name is Marta Koptowska. I am the Programs and Communications Manager here at ASHB. I will be emceeing the slides. Note that today's webinar is being recorded and we will circulate the recording along with the presentation slides to those who have registered. Quick look at today's agenda. We have a call to order, welcome, introductions about the Smart Home Council, a couple administrative tasks, a research update, just some of the research that ASHB does here annually, a little bit about that. And then, of course, for most of you, why you're all here today, our keynote, Turn Cybersecurity into a Competitive Advantage, the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark. The keynote speaker today will be Grace Burkard. We will then, after the keynote, we will get into a couple of the programs that we have here at ASHB, our podcasts, white papers, journals, and some new business. And lastly, some announcements. And then, of course, we will adjourn for the evening or the afternoon. With that, I will pass it over to Ken to go a little bit about what the Smart Home Council is and what we do here. Ken, and I think you're on mute, so if you want to unmute yourself. Ken, are you with us?
I am here. Thank you very much, Marta. It's a pleasure to be called to lead the ASHB Smart Home Council. My name is Ken Wax. I run a management consulting practice that specializes in home and building systems and energy management. And I personally chair the world standards body developing communication and networking standards for home and building systems. The international is run by ISO and IEC in Geneva, Switzerland. I'd like to tell you about ASHB. It's a trade association that has been around for about 35 years and is outstanding in providing independent information about activities in our industry. We'll tell you more about that a little later. But I'd like to tell you that the Smart Home Council has the charge to help the ASHB members get information, timely information about developments in the connected home industry. It was established in 2004. Initiates and reviews projects that relate to the connected home and multiple dwelling unit technologies and applications. This council also examines industry opportunities that can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, consumer electronics, and broadband services within the connected home market, a field that has been growing quite fast. We offer webinars and selected research topics to explore industry shaping trends and forces and the use of technology to make connected homes more flexible, adaptable, and human-centric. A bit of housekeeping. We keep minutes of these meetings. Our last meeting was November 5th. I hope you've had a chance to look at it. Are there any objections to approving the minutes as they are posted at ashb.com/SHC Smart Home Council? Hearing no objections to approving the minutes, we'll declare the minutes approved by consensus. If anyone finds any typos or such, please let Marta know. We'll take care of it afterwards. We'll now turn to Greg Walker, the CEO of ASHB, who will tell us about recent research.
Ken, actually, before we do that, I did want to just mention to the folks here on the call today that we do have an open call for Smart Home Council Vice Chair. So if anyone is interested, there is not too much work involved in all of this. We have 4 meetings a year, and really most of the information is given to you in advance. So really it's just you being able to show up and then assist with the meeting itself. And of course, with any of the keynotes, we would of course come to you and get your take on any of the proposals that we receive for keynote speakers and a couple other things. But really a lot of this is not too much commitment whatsoever. So if this is something that you would be interested in, please let me know. It's a great opportunity to get your face, your name, and your company's name out there. So just putting that out there. And again, if you'd like, you can message me in the chat and I'd be happy to connect with you in the coming weeks to discuss more about that. Sorry about that, Ken. I'll pass it back to you and Greg.
Greg, take it over.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Marta. So I'll be brief, but I'm here to talk about the Smart Home Council Landmark Research Project. We do this annually, and it's really a crowd-funded research project where we pool the funds from, you can see some of the funders on the screen here from last year's project, and we pool together and we give the money to a research organization that conducts this research on our behalf. And then we have, it's an interactive research project because everyone has 3 members on the steering committee where they can say what they'd like to see in the research, what they'd like to get out of the research. It's really similar to the modeled after the Gartner hype curve, but it's really tailored towards smart home adoption and really technology adoption in the smart home space. And we do a survey of 500 homeowners throughout the US and Canada, and then we do a deeper dive analysis into some certain areas, and we do some subject matter expert interviews and whatnot. Last year, they selected topics like sustainable technologies and native AI, and some around occupancy-centric environments, like for comfort and wellness. And then aging in place was a topic that came up that's trending right now in the smart home space, and they did a deeper dive in a separate chapter on that as well. So if you're interested in getting involved in this project, we're doing a very similar one, almost could be even almost the same in 2026. And if your company's interested, please let Marta, myself know, and then we can have a call afterwards. We can tell you what's involved. But it's a great way to get cost-effective research in wide-scale research for a significant cost reduction. But if you have any questions about this research or the future one, feel free to reach out and we can get in touch. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Greg. A feature of the Smart Home Council is our ability to attract outstanding featured speakers, and I'm pleased that we have Grace Burkard of the ioXt Alliance as our keynote presentation. I will introduce Grace, and we will take questions after her presentation. Grace will be talking about turn cybersecurity into a competitive advantage. She will address the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark. Cybersecurity is now a market differentiator in the smart home industry. In her keynote, Grace will explain how the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark can help IoT manufacturers, that's Internet of Things makers, strengthen product security, build trust with retailers and consumers, and turn regulatory compliance into a competitive advantage. Grace Burkard is the Director of Operations at ioXt Alliance. She spearheads ioXt's overall efforts in setting baseline security requirements to build a safer IoT world. Through her work with stakeholders in various international regulatory organizations, Grace plays a key role in harmonizing and standardizing security and privacy requirements, product compliance programs, and public transparency of those requirements and programs. It's my pleasure to invite Grace to address us.
Hello, thank you for having me today. I am very excited to get into the US Cyber Trust Mark. I am going to share my screen real quick. See if I can do this. Where is it? Here we go.
Yep.
Can you see it?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, great. And can you see me? Hold on. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome, great. All right. Yes, thank you for having me today. I am very excited. ioXt has been working on the US Cyber Trust Mark 2.5, going on 3 years. So I would say we consider ourselves a little bit of an expert. We've been very involved since the beginning. We've worked with NIST, the FCC, several stakeholders. So I am very excited to present to you today what we have been doing. I'll start with just a little bit of the background in case you're not aware of the US Cyber Trust Mark and everything that's gone into it. It was introduced in 2023. It's based off the NIST IR 8425 guidelines, and it will be run by the FCC. So it does use a QR code shield-like logo. You've probably seen it around, probably see it in my presentation a little bit later. But basically, it's a signal to consumers that the products have met these, rigorous conditions, and they have some at least basic security, if not more. Some of that includes data encryption, no default passwords, regular software updates. I'll get into that a little bit later. This is, again, a consumer product category, so there's not medical or healthcare devices that will be regulated by FDA. It does not include enterprise, industrial, or automotive at this time. I do feel like it will probably build on itself going forward in the coming years, but right now it's just focusing on consumer smart home products. So who are you looking for? We've got what we call cybersecurity labeling authorities, or CLAs. ioXt is one of them, but there are 10 total. These are going to be your certification organizations. So these are the only organizations that can actually give out the mark for certification. So if anybody else says they can, they can't. It's only these guys right now. So on top of that, there is a lead administrator. They're basically tasked with several responsibilities, but one of them was assembling a stakeholder group and providing recommendations on technical and non-technical standards, the label design, market surveillance, and the renewal period. There are several other responsibilities that are still being discussed, like registry and what cybersecurity lab requirements will be, and the consumer education program. So that's still being worked on, but that was UL Solutions. I say was, I'll give you a quick update on that in a second, but that happened from January 2025 to June 2025. So there are about 25 to 30 stakeholder organizations that got together, meeting on a regular basis, and put all these recommendations together for the FCC, which UL submitted in June. So as I'm showing here, just kind of a timeline events of what has happened since June. If you are interested in seeing those recommendations, I can put the link in the group chat or send it out. Feel free to reach out to me. But essentially, there was a 160-page technical, non-technical document. Is very dense. A lot that went into that. That was just for the technical and non-technical standards. There's also a couple other documents for the market surveillance and the renewal period. And so lots to go through. We understood that the FCC was going to take a minute to have to review all of that. I believe they had several follow-up questions for UL. They were working through that. But then, as we all know, in October, there was the government shutdown for 43 days. So that did put a halt on the FCC being able to continue their review and really get it out. So we were kind of in a holding position. And then during that time as well, a little after, the FCC opened investigation into UL, the Chinese joint venture that they had. So they're very high up on their security list when it comes to China. So they, really wanted to understand what that looked like. Eventually, UL just said, we will withdraw as the lead administrator. That was in December. So without a lead administrator, there wasn't really that lead organization to keep things moving. So obviously the FCC is looking for a new administrator. They opened the filings back in January, and that did close recently as of February 9th. So here we are in March. We do expect that the FCC will make an announcement on the new lead administrator within the coming weeks, within March itself. So there hasn't been a whole lot of updates since June, so I apologize. I don't have much to update you there, but I do have other grounds to cover, so don't worry. We have plenty to talk about. But just an update so everyone knows where we're at. Again, just go over a couple of things in case you're not familiar with the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark program. It is a voluntary federal program, so it is not mandatory. If you don't want to participate, you do not have to. However, if you do participate, then third-party lab testing is required. So no self-attestation, no self-certification. It will be lab testing. And then it is a binary program. So all technical and non-technical standards are required for passing. They're not levels at this time, so just make sure that you pass everything. And I would recommend, looking into these standards again. That is published and it's public now. So if it's been public for a long time, so if you have any interest, again, I can drop that in the chat or send that out. But you'll see them here on the screen on the right. You've got the technical ones: asset identification, product configuration, data protection, interface access control, software updates, and cybersecurity state awareness, as well as the non-technical, so documentation, information and query reception, information dissemination, and product education and awareness. So I would say go ahead and start looking at that now, just because some of these are they require a little bit more lead time to complete in case you don't already have them or are not doing them in the way that is defined in the UL recommendations. So especially like data protection, interface access control, and cybersecurity state awareness, and documentation. Documentation, there is a lot. So I know the program is not fully ready at this time, but it could be good now so that, if it does take you several months to get everything together, get all the proper documentation together, get any, information and query reception, that's really like, do you have a vulnerability disclosure program? So, if you don't have that stuff, it's good to start working on it now ahead of time so that when this does launch fully, you'll be ready. We also are working on we call a profile. That's basically just a test plan. It walks you through all of the test steps and the pass-fail criteria. Maybe there's additional information to help pass or clarify anything. So the UL recommendations already do this, and that is public. ioXt is also working on their own. They'll be very similar. So ours is not public yet, but should be relatively soon. So yes, if you're wondering, well, what do I need to do? I know 8425 is very vague. Again, those UL recommendations, that is going to get into the nitty-gritty. As I said, it's 160 pages, so it does a pretty good job telling you what you're going to need to prepare. So getting into it, I just wanted to cover kind of what the cyber trust mark is and is not. It is a recognizable trust signal for buyers. Again, that binary label. It just is, do you have it? Do you not? Obviously, if you don't have it, doesn't mean that you're not secure, but for transparency to consumers, it is helpful for them to understand what is and isn't. So that's really awesome for them. A standardized way to demonstrate baseline security. Again, this is these are baseline. This is something that the NIST and the industry believes that this is kind of what you should be doing no matter what. Obviously, you can be doing more, but it's a really great way for everybody to be on the same page instead of, well, I have this and I've got that and it's all over the place. So kind of just helps even out for everyone. And then also a tool to support retail, channel, and regulatory conversations. This is pretty big from my standpoint. Everyone I've talked to is pretty aware of it. They want it. We keep hearing demand for it, and when is it coming? So it's really great that the whole industry is involved. But what is it not? One-time checkbox. Okay, done. No, this is continuous, right? So cybersecurity is always changing. Vulnerabilities are always changing. As new firmwares and softwares and updates go out, it's always great. You can update your product. I believe the renewal period is somewhere between 3 to 5 years. So that will be decided on by the FCC once they review the recommendations. It's good that as the world is changing, so is the program. We do think that the program, like I said, will build on top of itself. So as we go along, new standards may be added. They probably will be added, I should say. So not just like, okay, done, just continue to be involved. A replacement for your security program. Again, you may be doing above and beyond security, so don't feel like, oh, you only have to do US Cyber Trust Mark standards. We always encourage to go above and beyond when it comes to security, so continue to do that. And it is not a guarantee against all cyber risk. I think everyone here knows that you are not going to have 100% security 100% of the time with new vulnerabilities that are always going out there. Something can always happen, and it's great that manufacturers are usually very on top of these things. And so we're just trying to make everyone aware of that, especially consumers. They're not as technical, so it's really great if they can kind of follow along with what's going on with the program, and that'll probably be in the education awareness campaign of, what to expect, what not to expect, all that. So why should you care about this? There's lots of reasons, as you can see. I would say that the first and foremost is to differentiate in a crowded product category. So there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of smart consumer devices out there. You can go to your local Home Depot or Best Buy, and you're going to see 50 different kinds of light bulbs and 10 different kinds of smart plugs and vacuums and all this stuff. So how do you decide? As a consumer, I'm looking at, price, but I'm also looking at security. I think we're all very aware of how vulnerabilities are showing up these days and hacks are happening. Consumers are becoming more and more aware. So if they're able to just see that mark and know that that device has security, that's going to be huge from a consumer perspective. Because if I'm looking at a wall of products and I don't know as a consumer, I'm looking at how can I tell? So this will be a really great way for manufacturers to say, me, choose me, right? So also reduce downstream risk and recalls, obviously with security by design, that's the goal. You don't want to have any issues, so this should help with that. On top of the differentiate, obviously build trust with retailers and distributors. We know, I'll get into that a little bit later as well, but retailers are also really looking into this program. They really like this program. They like the idea of it, what it represents. So I'll touch on that, but beware, this could be really big with them. We also have become the consumer's trusted go-to choice. Obviously, that is the goal, right? You obviously want to be the number one choice and get all consumers money, they want to choose you, so get this mark, and they might just do that. Align with future global labeling programs. There's an initiative called the Global Cybersecurity Labeling Initiative, and that is where 12 other countries have decided that they are also going to be doing labeling programs. Singapore, Australia, Germany, UAE, United Kingdom. There's like 12 of them. So they've all decided that if you have the mark in one of their countries, you can sell into the other countries and not have to go and get all the different marks. So it'll be like a mutual recognition program, essentially. The US is in talks. They're working towards this as well. So that will be another big goal of the program, is to mesh in so that if you get it here, you can sell in a lot of other countries as well. And then, last but not least, support enterprise and government procurement. There is an executive order out that says by January of 2027, the federal government will be required to purchase consumer products any consumer products that they purchase will have to have the U.S. Cyber Trust mark. So that is not too far away. So if you sell into the government, you might want to think about this. So to continue on, turning compliance into competitive advantage, this is just kind of high level. It's really, signaling maturity and responsibility to the industry and to consumers. It's supporting premium positioning, reducing friction across the product lifecycle. Obviously, you're not going to have as many issues, hopefully, if you are following security and baseline requirements, and then aligning security, legal, marketing, and sales teams. Just having one cohesive message, making it easy for consumers and retailers alike to understand, is your product safe? Yes or no? Make it easy, right? So yes, I do want to touch on retailers and channel partners. They are paying attention. What do they want? They obviously want reduced risk on their shelves and minimizing the potential security liabilities and customer concerns. They want clear, consistent security signals, so something easy to understand, verification for consumers and staff, in case, staff need to know, in case consumers ask them, and fewer surprises after products launch. They really want predictable performance and fewer post-purchase issues. What we've heard, we have had several retailers involved in the stakeholder program. We've heard that they are willing to do several things in order to push the products that have the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark label on them. That includes specialized placements on the shelves in the physical stores, but also online to make it easier for consumers to find. They're willing to do special marketing campaigns themselves for the products that have the label. Again, getting the information out to consumers. Why is it important? Why they should buy these products? And then, even a couple of like end displays, aisle displays, to really just take it from the shelves and put it right in front of the consumers, right? So that they are first and foremost, those products are going to be top of mind, right in sight, for consumers to see and kind of be that go-to choice, right? So know that the retailers are very excited for this program, and they are willing to support it in the ways that they can and really highlight products that have the mark. So again, nothing yet, but when it does hit, we have heard that from them, so look for it to come. Label is influencing purchasing behavior, obviously with consumers. They're factoring security into buying decisions more and more. We're seeing so many from like every angle, I would say. We've got lots of studies. We work with Consumer Reports. They are seeing it everywhere. There is this great ask for security and transparency and privacy. Obviously, there are the big news articles that get to consumers of this product has been hacked, and it's really scary for them. I mean, you hear about baby monitors and doorbells, and so people don't like that. And once what we've seen and what we've heard is once a product is hacked, that brand is kind of blacklisted with consumers. That it takes a lot for trust to be lost. It takes a little for trust to be lost and a lot to earn it back. So that is a big deal and something to really think about with consumers. It only takes one time. I know everybody thinks it's not going to happen to me or my company or my products, but it only takes one time. It's a lot of effort to get back to where you were. Obviously, enterprise buyers may require document security if you sell them to them. We've seen that a time or two. It's not all the time, but we have seen it where they'll request that. Obviously, governments and large buyers favor labeled products and knowing which products are secure and which are not. Again, going back to the executive order, and that will be mandated if you sell into federal government. And then trust signals influence brand loyalty, obviously build long-term trust and repeat customers. That's always the goal. And security transparency drives preference. So again, especially, and I get on my soapbox about this, but I think with the education awareness campaign, that is going to be so important for the success of this program. I know that we will be driving hard on that and making sure the manufacturers and retailers that we work with will be pushing it so that they can understand, again, why is it important? Why should I be buying this? And they, will probably vote with their wallets. So just to be clear. But yeah, so next steps. How can you get involved? What's coming? Obviously, as I mentioned, a new lead administrator announcement is coming, I believe, this month. So watch for updates from them. I'm sure that they will be making their own announcements and how to get involved. Joining stakeholder work groups. That is one great way to get involved. This really helps to collaborate on decisions for program policies and requirements. If you have opinions or if you want to help make decisions or, if you've got something that you want to say, this is a great way to get that out and talk it out. We have gone down some fun rabbit holes. So it's great discussion. They're so enlightening. Again, those will, with the new lead admin, those will be popping up. So be on the lookout for that. There are obviously newsletters from any of the CLAs, the new lead admin, FCC, NIST. They all make announcements, follow their socials, join their newsletters because they're always sending out information when the updates happen. And last but not least, please feel free to reach out to me and my team here at ioXt. As I said, we have been doing this for almost 3 years, and we basically just live and breathe the US cyber trust mark at this point. So we're happy to take questions or inquiries, or if you want to learn more about certification or have questions about certain parts of 8425, we are more than happy to go ahead and answer those questions or get further involved and talk more. So, but yes, thank you everyone for your time, and thank you to ASHB for having me. I guess we'll take any questions.
Grace, thank you so much. It's quite enlightening. We now have a few minutes for questions. Let's see, do we have any chat? I don't see any at this point. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, Ken, this is Chris Larry. I had a question. I put it in the chat, but what type of percentage of manufacturers will support this standard, or how many, will most of the retailers adopt this type of certification? What kind of ideas do you have on that?
Yeah, so there was a very good mix within the stakeholder companies. Obviously, have your big guys like Google, Amazon, Apple. We know we had Whirlpool. So I would say there's a good interest. They all seemed very on board. They're obviously working towards the standards and writing the program rules and everything. So it's I'm not sure personally if it'll be just like a huge takeoff where it's just everybody wants it and it just skyrockets, and that would be great, honestly. Or maybe it's a slow ramp where maybe again the differentiators want to get their products out there and be the first to market on it and everybody else sees what happens. But from the manufacturers that we've worked with, who have also been in the stakeholder work group, who are in the ioXt Alliance, we have seen a lot of interest in it, I would say.
Let's
I think we have a few more questions
yeah,
in
I'm
the
looking
chat
at the
there, Kevin.
questions now. Let's see. With UL being removed as the lead administrator, what's the likelihood of requirements that UL developed previously to be changed? Are there areas that are more likely than others?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, because this was done in a stakeholder group, and again, 25 to 30 different organizations were involved, I would say it's probably very unlikely that it'll change too much. There are a few things that IOC doesn't necessarily agree with. So, the recommendations will go out to public comment eventually, once FCC kind of figures out what's happening with lead admin and everything. So once that goes out for public comment, I'm IOC will be sending that out. I'm sure ASHB will be following along as well. But please go in and read it. Again, read it now because it's 100
So
pages.
do I understand, Grace, what's going out for public comment is the baseline requirements to get the certificate?
Yes. So the technical and non-technical standards requirements that were the recommendations from the stakeholder work group, not just UL. UL was the lead admin, so they were kind of the voice of the group, but it was done by the group. And you had so many experts within the field that came together to agree on most of it. Again, there's probably a couple things here and there that not everyone agreed on.
Yeah, I was involved in committees at the Consumer Technology Association, which developed standards
Mhm.
following the broad directives from NIST.
Yes, exactly. So CTA definitely involved. So when that goes out for public comment, I assume most of these organizations will send out some type of update so that you can also go and comment on anything that you may or may not agree with. But yeah, with how many voices are in that room to bring those recommendations together, I don't think it'll change like too drastically.
I think it's important to recognize that these are baseline requirements. There's in no way a guarantee by ioXt or any certification body that this product is rock solid and can never be attacked. It just means it minimums like the password isn't blank or isn't password, that the user has to set a password.
Yes, yeah, there's very minimum, on these. There's a lot. Don't get me wrong. If you go read the recommendations, again, 160 pages, but it's all pretty basic. I don't think anyone would be too surprised in seeing some of these requirements.
Elizabeth Parks asks, is there any info on the cost to certify?
Not yet. That will be left up to each CLA. So that will be developed as time goes along.
Okay, let's see. What categories of products are covered? Are these only wireless or are these connected products? Raj had this question.
Yes. At this time, I believe it's only wireless. There has been some discussion recently about all connected. So stay tuned, but currently only wireless at this time.
Okay, next. Will the Cyber Trust Mark continue using NIST IR 8425 as a baseline, or is it planned to develop new standards with a draft to replace or update it? I think we sort of addressed this, that 8425 is the guiding document and the actual tests are being refined. Did I capture that right, Grace?
Yes, yeah. So both NIST and the PSHB, Public Health and Safety Bureau, they have both been tasked by the FCC in the report and order to update the requirements as we go along. So it will continue to update. I know NIST is currently working on adding routers to the program. Routers are not currently included, but they've already started working on that. Like I said, it'll continue into other areas, other industries. But yes, they definitely want to continue to update as new vulnerabilities emerge and making sure that products continue to have just at least a baseline, if not higher security.
Elizabeth asked, does the certification cover many of what other countries identify as needed for their domestic requirements?
Yeah, I would say that's a good question. I would say that most of the other countries are actually looking at ETSI EN 303-645. If you look at, Singapore and Australia's for sure, they're all looking at that. And with US Cyber Trustmark and ETSI, I would say they probably cross about 60%. But I do believe in the talks there would be some type of mutual recognition.
Do you want to just go a bit slower? You mentioned two organizations outside the US. ETSI is a European body, IEC is an international body, and you were saying that both have their own set of requirements.
Yes. ETSI EN 303-645, that's European, and that is its own thing. It includes a little bit of privacy, but similar enough to the US Cyber Trustmark where they could mutually recognize to each other. I don't think that that's off the table.
Is there a chance the enforcement date will be extended given that we're only going to public comments in Q2 at the earliest?
The enforcement date of the federal purchase, the executive order, I'm assuming, we do think that it will probably be extended just because, as you said, we're already into Q2. We've lost, several months to other factors. So yes, I do believe it will be extended. There's just been no announcement, so I'm not talking on the behalf of the government by any means. That is just my personal opinion.
Is the list published yet, the requirements list?
Yes, I did throw it into the chat, or maybe I can do that now, actually. There, I just submitted.
Okay.
So feel free. I can also throw in 8425 eventually as well. If you give me a second. And here you are.
Is there any discussion about cross-certification with the program at the European Union called CRA?
Yeah, I'm sure that will also be on the table, especially since CRA is pulling from ETSI 303-645 a lot as well. So yes, I believe once we're ready to look at the international angle, we'll consider all of the big ones, including CRA.
So I can just make a comment from my perspective, chairing a world standards body. Generally, there's more activity in standards you find in the European Union than even in the US. So we can learn a lot from what's going on with the cyber requirements in Europe. Let's see, we have a question from Shaw. Do you know how certification of a company that has a portfolio of products will be covered? For example, each door lock needs to be certified separately, or can one certification cover the product line if the company infrastructure is the same? Or he's looking to understand if we have many certifications needed, or can a family of products be certified as one?
Yes, also a very good question. This was covered in the stakeholder meetings. I believe it was included in the recommendations as well, but I can double check on that. But yes, it will be certification based on family of products. So it won't have to be every single SKU. We're very aware that like colors exist and that can be a big thing. How to decide if it's within the family or not. For specifically ioXt, we look at if, is it the same radio, is it the same processor, is it the same firmware or software library? So if that is the same, then yes. If it's got different brains, then those are going to be separate. Even if it's within the same family. If it's too different, then you'll have to do different certification or multiple certification. But if it's close enough, one of the examples I like to use are like the light switches. And so, sometimes you just have the on-off light switch, sometimes you have a dimmer light switch, and sometimes you have like a button light switch. But they all have the same core brains. So those would all be just one certification. Um, to make it easier on manufacturers. We may require that some of them, if they look too different, we may require that you at least enter or submit the information for two. But obviously, if it's a light switch and a fan, they're different, right? So you would definitely need to submit two for those. So hopefully that answers the question well.
David Katz from Ontario asked, did the CSA contribute anything for Canadian perspective?
Which CSA? There's several that I know.
I think he's referring to what used to be the Canadian Standards Authority. Our association, rather.
Okay. Not to my knowledge, I don't believe so. It's just a US based at this time. I know if you're referring to like the GCLI, the Global Cybersecurity Labeling Initiative, I don't remember exactly, but I can also put in the group chat more information about the GCLI program so that people can know more about that as well.
And Elizabeth asked, what are the biggest challenges with getting the industry players involved?
That's a great question. I don't know if there's been too many challenges in getting them involved. Like I said, we had some really big players who have been interested, who have been participating. They've made edits in the documents. They're ready to certify their products. I would say it's more so there might be too many opinions that are going on. That's been a little bit of a challenge. And like I said, we've gone down some intense rabbit holes on just like one topic. Sometimes it's a word, like what does authorized user mean? And we'll talk about that for, 2 hours. So that sometimes a little too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. But I would say maybe awareness is maybe a little bit of a challenge because I know the big players are obviously involved. They're aware. They've got a hand in every cookie jar. But, not all the, even like medium, small size manufacturers, they may not know about it. So they may miss out on the opportunity to be first to market on it. So that's why we're trying to do stuff like this and just get the awareness out so that they'll be ready. And again, like I said, there are some long lead times for some of the requirements if you're not already doing them. So look into it now so that when it comes out, you're ready to go and you're not like, oh, I wish I would have done that months ago.
And Grace has posted a number of pointers to websites that give more information from NIST, from the FCC. And what is homeaffairs.gov? That's Australia. Okay, homeaffairs.gov.au.
Yeah, that's talking about the GCLI program. So in case you wanted to know who else is involved in that, what other countries are looking into this
What
mutual.
is GCL an acronym for?
The Global Cybersecurity Labeling Initiative.
And you said the U.S. is aligning with this group?
Once the program is finished, that will be the next steps to look into that. We just got to finish at home first and then look abroad.
All right, let me see if we've got it. And I think that covers the questions. If I've missed any, please speak up. We'll leave this as the last opportunity for questions. Well, Grace, this has been quite an education for us. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So will the lead administrator be likely one of the 10 labs?
Yes, yes. The lead administrator has to be a CLA. So they will have to pick from one of them.
Okay. Well, best wishes, assuming you're in the running.
Yes, yes, we are. Thank you so much.
So, Marta, do you want to tell us about ASHB podcasts?
Thanks so much, Ken. Yes. For those who are not familiar with our podcast, we have a podcast series titled the ASHB Smarter Homes and Buildings podcast, of course. This is where industry leaders meet and basically talk about anything and everything smart home, smart building, the technologies that are basically shaping smarter and safer living spaces and more intelligent buildings, of course. We are always looking for hosts and guests. Our recent episode with Elizabeth Parks of Parks and Associates, where she interviewed Derek Richardson, and they discussed about plug and play lighting sensors and how AI are transforming lighting into core infrastructure for smarter, healthier homes. We also had a recent podcast with Roy Spencer, who explained how smart tech like Basement Defender can prevent costly water damage. These are just a couple of our recent episodes. If you are interested in being a host or a guest, let us know. We can work together to either set you up with someone, be it a host and or guest, depending on what side you're looking to be on. Or you can also bring in anyone on your end. So you can be the host and whoever you bring on could be the guest. There's so many ways of doing this. Very flexible. Timing wise is also very flexible. So if that's something that is of interest to you, please let us know. I can certainly take a quick call with you and go over the logistics. We do publish these on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and they're being received very well. So definitely something for all on the call to consider if you'd be interested.
How big is the podcast library, Marta?
We, I believe, are sitting at approximately 20 or so episodes. So we started this about 2.5, 3 years ago, and we're up there. I would say we're about close to maybe 30 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So please let us know if you're interested, and we'd be happy to go over all the details with you. And as I said, it's very flexible. Timing wise, we also schedule the meet and greet for the host and the guest to meet and basically go over some of the talking points. And then, of course, part of that package is we promote this out to our membership, to our contacts, get your company's name out there, get your name out there. So it's a really good opportunity, and there's no cost to this. So please do reach out.
And I did one of the early episodes, and I'll just want to reassure everyone, it's not a huge time commitment. It doesn't take a lot of planning. If you're going to do it, you know your field, and so it's having a conversation that you might have with a colleague or a client.
Yes, exactly.
So I'd like to tell you now about the fundamental mission of ASHB is to be a source of information that comes from all parts of the industries affiliated with homes and buildings. As part of this, information flow is a two-way street. We provide information from our members by offering members the opportunity to create original white papers. We've been doing this for many years at the Smart Home Council and also at the Companion Smart Building Council. we are looking for companies who would like to volunteer to write informative white papers. Typically, we limit it to about 10 pages. If you have a lot to say, we can break it up into an overview paper, a technology paper, a marketing paper, etc. If you'd like to have an informal setting for writing a white paper, and I will personally help you organize a committee to advise you on the white paper, or even to review or critique your proposed white paper as you wish. The whole idea is to get the word out, to teach the ASHB members something about your industry. Of course, you can mention if you're a manufacturer in the field, you're welcome to state that. This is not a substitute for advertising, so we don't particularly want an advertorial. We want information to help us appreciate, understand, and grow in this industry. On the flip side, we look for publications that are done outside of ASHB that are worthy of putting in the ASHB library. We have quite a large library. What's the current number, in the thousands now, Marta? Or in the hundreds?
We are approximately 1,000 for the member library.
Oh, there you go. Well, when she says member, let me explain. Publications that we have reviewed, we actually have a formal publication review committee. We provide written guidelines on how to review a paper. We ask for a 100-word summary. We ask that the paper be relevant, it be recent, and that not be pejorative or not be an advertorial. Of course, companies can introduce the topic, explain it, and then add that, by the way, our product model XYZ does what we think is necessary in this field. That's okay. We just don't want to say that our product XYZ is the only game in town and you've got to buy our product. We do have keywords that allow a computerized search of our 1,000 papers, and beyond the 1,000 that have been published in the past few years that are limited to ASHB members, older papers are available to the general public through the ASHB website. So that is the Publication Review Committee. Now I'd like to mention that ASHB has a more formal journal called the ASHB Journal. This started under different names. It used to be the CABA Journal. It used to be a 4-color magazine called iHomes and Buildings. And now it's an online journal. You have quite a bit of flexibility in what you can write on. I have been contributing articles for many years, way back in the early CABA days, and when CABA started in the early 90s. And I do it 3 or 4 times a year on a variety of topics. ASHB is very open to journal articles in any field related to the domain of smarter homes and buildings. So now's your opportunity to suggest new business for this committee, new keynote ideas, white paper ideas, projects that we should consider, agenda items. You can speak up now, or you can contact Marta. I'll contact me. You can get my contact data at kenwax.com, kenwacs.com. We're always looking for new ideas to make ASHB relevant to your business.
Ken, can you hear me? David Ken.
Yes, David, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm late. Well, so hopefully I'll read 160 pages and see what the Canadian Standards Association think about it. I guess my new business is there's an opportunity as we look for smarter homes, and I might bring this up again. There's new technology for secondary windows that literally turn old single pane windows into triple pane, including a nano coating that lowers the summer cooling load. So There are large incentives in Ontario for anybody that can lower summer peak demand. That's our big challenge. And so if anybody's interested, they can contact me at sustainable.on.ca, dcats@sustainable.on.ca. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Maybe at some point you can develop a
Actually,
SHC white
I wrote,
paper.
you know what? I wrote an article for the PM magazine, and it covers that topic. I made bring it up to date. We have new technology that's been added, which is key, is that there's many ways to insulate your window from, 3M film, two-way tape, saran wrap with a hair dryer.
Mhm.
But the key is we look for less fossil fuel, especially in light of the price just jumped, is basically the energy is going out the window. I was just at another construction specification. There are so many new insulation products that literally save 30 to 40% of the energy that's going out through the walls, the windows, down the drain, and up the chimney.
So you mentioned the magazine that you wrote an article in. Which magazine was that?
It was a property management magazine, which
Got
is
it. Okay.
common. So I'm going to look that up. It was about the initial secondary window. The company is American that did it, that started it, Magnetite, and we have the Canadian rights. So I'll look that up. And I think as people think about their home, new windows cost lots of money. And if your existing window is structurally sound but original, there's a way to turn it into triple pane.
Thank you, David. Any other suggestions for new business areas? Well, we'll now turn to Marta, who'll tell us about industry events.
Just a couple of events taking place this year in the smart home space. And if you are on the call and you'd like to speak about any of these, please feel free to. Of course, we have Parks Associates Connections, the Premier Connected Home Conference, which is taking place in Santa Clara, California from May 5th to 7th. Highly recommend that. Great opportunity to connect with individuals in this space and network. We also have the Smart Homes and Furnishings Show, which is taking place May 7th to the 9th in Chicago. And of course, CEDIA Expo, September 1st to the 4th in Denver, Colorado. And of course, ASHB will be there. You will have a booth at the expo. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Marta. If anyone has any news that you'd like ASHB to disseminate, please let Marta know. This committee meets every 3 months. Marta and I are already blocking out dates in May. And we look forward to seeing you. You, of course, will get timely announcements of our meeting in May. So I do believe we've reached the end of our agenda. Last opportunity for anyone to say hello or propose a topic. Otherwise, we're always available. You can contact Marta and discuss ways in which ASHB can help your company, help the industry. So I want to thank everyone for your time here. We had a good turnout and an excellent presentation by Grace. So Marta, I think we are ready to adjourn.
Excellent. Thank you all.